Here's what really frustrated me about that Ayesha Curry interview. It just reflects how society is so quick to label us as ungrateful when we speak honestly about our experiences in marriage and motherhood. Hey mamas, welcome back to the Whole Mama Show, where we're revealing the untold stories of motherhood. Ayesha Curry. It is wild that people took a few seconds of an interview, a very honest and heartfelt interview, and spun it around and became an entire personality judgment. So Ayesha Curry said that she didn't always dream about being a wife and a mom, and people lost it. Okay, so I don't know if you've watched it yet, but I recently finally watched and listened to the entire episode of Ayesha Curry's interview on the podcast Call Her Daddy. I have some things to say about it, okay? Firstly, if you haven't watched it or listened to it yet, please do. It is honestly a really refreshing interview. It's a very refreshing and honest conversation. I didn't really know much about Ayesha Curry except for the fact that she's obviously married to Steph Curry. So she's, considered this like basketball wife kind of situation. But I really didn't know much about her backstory in terms of how she met Steph, their love story and all of that. So it was actually just really nice to hear that. But also what I loved about it is how she actually told the story. She told the story very much, not just the story, but her experience. She was just very honest without being, despite what a lot of the media outlets and the internet has been saying. She was honest about her journey into marriage and motherhood. I think, and I believe, without being disrespectful about it, honestly, I feel like if you got any disrespect from that interview, you were probably not the target audience. I feel that I was the target audience, so I got it. I understood where she was coming from, and I understood what she was saying, as well as, and especially, the context in which she was saying it. That was really, really important because the internet loves to make a headline out of sound bites. They take the sound bite and just that is what it is. But the first time that I saw it was actually on my thread. It was a guy, of course, responding to a 20-second, 30-second clip of her saying that she never wanted marriage. I'm paraphrasing here. She said something along the lines of she never really wanted marriage. She never really saw herself as a wife and things like that. And they took that part of the interview and blew it up. And basically it was just saying, if I were her husband, I would feel so disrespected. I'd feel so embarrassed. And for me, it just, reactions like those really just pointed out, or rather confirmed to me, that a woman's story and a woman's experience is all valid and everything until it says anything remotely, possibly negative about her husband. Like, how did you take what she said in those 20 seconds and turn that around to understand it as she does not want her husband, she does not love her husband, she does not respect her husband, and she doesn't want or love her kids? Are we not watching the same thing here? So for me, I did comment, I did respond, and I just said, yeah, it's interesting how with everything that she said, despite even in that clip, there was a slight bit of context, all this person took out of it was how disrespectful this is to her husband. Honestly, that has happened to me a couple of times in my comments and things like that about things that I would be, honest about when it comes to my journey in motherhood or my experience being in an interracial marriage with my husband. These are all things that I'm not making up. I am drawing from actual experience, but people, because they're so not used to hearing certain things, or they don't want to hear certain things, especially from women of color in particular, then all of a sudden everything else falls away and they just focus on the one word that may have not been thoroughly thought through, or their own preconceptions of what she should have said and what she should have shared. People have likened her to Jada Pinkett Smith. Honestly, for me, it was blown out of proportion, unnecessarily so. What I realized about the commentary that was going on about it, a lot of people probably didn't actually watch the interview. It just speaks to where we are as a society, historically as well as currently, right? The whole idea of shaming moms, I mean, I talked about this in a previous episode and so many other times on my social media. Shaming moms has just become a hobby at this point. The whole thing with what happened with Ayesha Curry was just so blown out of proportion, taken out of context. She was speaking as she was feeling in her 20s or something like that, in her late teens. The idea of watching this and then saying, oh, if I were her husband, I would feel so disrespected. Wife could never talk like this. And it's like, what does it have to do with you? What does it have to do with you as a husband, as a man, or whatever, for a woman to say, I never really wanted to get married. Didn't really think about kids. I have to say, I think a lot of women could relate to what she was saying in that clip. How many of us can honestly say that we mapped our lives out exactly how it has come to fruition? The expectations versus reality of life, very, very different. Expectations when you were 16, 18, 20, 22, very, very different to the reality of life at 30, 35, 40. And for me, that's what I took out of the many clips that were shared about this interview. It was her reflecting when she was younger. She didn't really think about marriage. She didn't really want marriage. But that's what her life had for her. And with that came kids, much earlier than she anticipated, but it still happened. People jumped on the bandwagon way too quickly for this, as I feel like that is the case with a lot. Because honestly, the most frustrating thing about that interview is how quickly people ran with the sound bites. And I guess this is reflective of our society in general, especially currently, because we are so online, we're so on all the time, hearing about anybody and everybody's news and lives and updates and things like that. It's so easy to just take one little sentence and make that a bigger deal than it actually was, or frame it in a way that it wasn't actually intended. I mean, I've watched the full conversation, so she wasn't saying that she regrets her life. She was just being honest about how it wasn't necessarily what she always dreamt of or always wanted. And I think that's fair, especially considering that she did marry quite young. By the age that she did get married, she hadn't even really completely figured out what she wanted to do in her life. To be fair, I think a lot of us can relate to that. Even now at my grand older age of almost being 40, there are things that I'm like, actually, I don't know if that's what I want. And isn't that what we want from people, especially women as fellow women? Honestly, the version of you at 20 probably didn't anticipate that things would happen by the time you were 35 or 40 years old. We cannot keep beating ourselves up about things that we said that we were going to do when we were 15, 16, 20, 25. Life happens, things happen, people grow, and we need to grow as well. But the internet seems to love punishing women for changing their minds, especially when it comes to marriage and motherhood. We throw it around all the time. We say growth is beautiful, but only when it fits the narrative that society wants. But let's be real. How many of us can actually say that we planned the life that we're currently living in? The way I see it, you can love your family and your kids, but still admit that it wasn't always what you wanted. And that's not regret, that's self-awareness. Aisha wasn't dismissing her husband and kids. She was reflecting on how much she's changed. The world needs to allow women to grow and evolve without shaming them. Here's what really frustrated me about that Ayesha Curry interview. It just reflects how society is so quick to label us as ungrateful when we speak honestly about our experiences in marriage and motherhood. So what Ayesha Curry said that resonated so much much with me is the honesty in which she was able to admit something that a lot of us can't say out loud, that motherhood, marriage wasn't always the plan. But even if it was never part of the plan, it still became one of the most transformative parts of who we are. And that truth deserves compassion, understanding, and not shaming and criticism like she's received. The internet and society will always turn a woman's reflections into controversy because deep down, society still believes that women should be grateful for being chosen. But more and more women are choosing themselves, choosing their growth, their happiness, their dreams. And I love it for us. Honestly, I find it refreshing when women like Ayesha Curry speak about their evolution and their journey into motherhood in an honest way. Clearly, it's uncomfortable for a lot of people, but it's also just so liberating for those of us who are yearning for that kind of honesty to become the norm. We're not static beings. We don't go from being women to mothers and that's it. It is so multidimensional. And that's honestly what I loved the most about that interview. I feel like it kind of captured the multidimensional aspect of being a woman, a wife, a mother, a human being, a friend. It's not as clear cut and as black and white as society likes to make it seem, that as soon as we become mothers, all other aspects of ourselves just fall away. Those parts of ourselves still exist. In some women, it's, pushed to the side, put on pause. In others, it is completely thrown out through maybe her own decision, but a lot of the times it's not. It's just because that's how society expects us to behave when we become moms. All of a sudden, our plans, our dreams, our individuality just falls away. And so when society hears a woman, a mother, speaking honestly about the fact that her life does not revolve around her kids and her husband, and she still has dreams other than being a mom, ooh, that rubs people the wrong way. Because it's not the narrative that we're told. It's not the narrative that we have been conditioned into. It's not the narrative that society wants. When humans see things that are not what we have been taught, what we have been told is normal, it doesn't sit right with us. And so for me, that's where the anger and the frustration and the shaming came from. At least for me, it was very clear that, hang on a minute, this woman, this mother, doesn't fit in this box that we have made for her. Why? Why is she rebelling? Why is she pushing against the grain? I have had this in my life, being a woman, being a mother, and being honest about my journey in motherhood, being honest about the, tough parts, the ugly parts, the not so fun parts, the parts that for the longest of time, society has made very quiet, made very secret, has gaslighted us. That's how I took her interview. It wasn't at all disrespectful towards her husband or towards her kids. If anything, I felt like it was more empowering for other moms, other women to listen to what she had to say. And that despite the fact that she has this very successful, very rich and famous husband, she herself is still Aisha. I love that she shares a name with me. But she herself is still Aisha. She herself hasn't forgotten about herself. I will always defend a woman's right to be honest about her journey in motherhood. It is so important that we stop, as a society, we stop gaslighting moms, telling them that they should be grateful. We can be grateful, and we are. And, not but, and it is hard, and it is challenging, and we have a lot of other things that we need to do in our lives to feel fulfilled. Motherhood should not be reduced to being one-dimensional. That is really a disservice to the beauty, the pain, the lessons, the growth that comes from this experience of motherhood. As I always do, I really encourage us to encompass and to embrace it all, because that is what makes us good mothers. That is what makes us relatable moms. That's what makes us human mothers. It's not this fairy tale, la-di-da, unicorn and rainbows. All of us have had our own challenges. Some some bigger than others, but they are all still there and they're all still valid. Those are my thoughts on the Ayesha Curry interview. Let me know if you have watched it or have listened to it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as well about it. What did you take from that interview? And if you enjoyed this video, let me know with a thumbs up and share it with a mom in your life. Leave a comment in the comments boxes below. Let's have a chat about this. And if you're listening on the podcast, please leave a one-liner review and a quick rating out of 5 so this can get sent out to more moms. I'd love to reach more women. If you have missed any of it, these t-shirts are on sale. This one is actually only one left. Okay, so this is one of the last t-shirts. It is a limited edition Whole Mama tee. I'm so happy and I'm so excited and I'm so proud of how well this collection has been doing, and it makes me so happy seeing all of the different moms wearing their t-shirt, receiving their packages in the mail. If you are a whole mama, please go ahead and buy your t-shirt. It is on my shop, thewholemama.co.za, and I will see you in the next video. See you next week.